Hello and welcome back to the channel and another video on the construction of phase 2 of Heaton Lodge Junction. Well, it's been a busy week the last week. I've been in my car more than anything else, going down to London to Shepperton Studios to see Rob Bean. Rob was the chap who made the cooling towers, part of which you can see one of them behind me, but he also makes components in 3D and designs and print them, 3D printing rather. So he's made all these components, which I'm going to be showing you in a minute, for part of the concrete factory complex. And I've also been to see Tim at Tim Horn Baseboards. That's a big 8-hour round trip to pick up the bases for HS3. So what was I going to tell you about HS3 today? Well, I've read the comments, I've taken it on board. I'm going to do HS3 in double track after all. So it is going to fit. I'm going to show you a bit more about that in a second. But I think two HSTs racing in opposite directions at scale speeds are going to look pretty spectacular, especially going through the girder bridges and all the colour light signals. There's even going to be a station, a smaller station, which they may or may not stop at. I haven't decided yet. Certainly the DMUs that will run on the same line will be stopping there. But anyway, let's not elaborate further. Lot to do, lot to get through, so I'll see you in a few minutes. Right, so we're at Tim Horn's again. So Tim has been actually laser cutting these bases for HS3 because, as you remember from a previous video, when I was cutting them with a circular saw, I was making a right, well, pig's ear of them, to be honest. But these look really good, don't they, Tim?
Yeah, so we've gone for 12mm plywood.
Yeah, for the bases.
For the bases, yeah. There's quite a difference structurally between 9mm and 12mm in terms of the 12mm's more stable.
Yeah, and don't you have to laser cut it? Does the machine cut straight through it straight away?
Yeah, so I managed to, you basically slow the machine down,
right,
the thicker the material. So it takes, I think on the big machine, it took about 20 minutes per plinth, if you like.
Got you.
What are we, 2 meters? I think they're 2 meters tall.
2 meters tall, and we've got a lot of them. How many have we done now?
Yeah,
we've got
so
enough
you've got 6 straights.
Straights and a load of curves.
And then you've got 4 30-foot radius.
30-foot radius, because if these, for the HS3, obviously the trains are going to be running really fast, and so I didn't want to do some really narrow, 10-foot curves. I needed it to be a bit more.
Yeah, and then I think you've got 4 20-foot curves as well.
Exactly. So that'll look really good. And we're going to do some shoulders that are going to run along the edges. You'll see the photo popping up on your screen now, the one that Steve Smith did at Railway Laser Lines, which basically they're going to have the catenary masts plugged into. So once all this is ballasted, rather, it should look really good.
It will look good.
It looks better than my sawing anyway, that's for sure.
Well, the problem with the hardwood is it splinters when you use a saw, unless you use a real fine-toothed saw. It's just always going to splinter. Yeah, it's just the nature of plywood.
Yeah, and the laser doesn't have to do a really neat, nice job, doesn't it? Once they've got these sides on, they'll look really good. Yeah. But let's move on to the concrete tower, because this concrete tower that we're building is going to be a real kind of talking point. And these are the resin pieces that I got from Rob, who has been designing all the components. I gave him drawings of what I needed, and Rob's been designing the components for the concrete. I think it's called a crusher tower. But Tim and I have just been working out how to design the floors So I reckon, Tim, we're going to go for 5 kind of open floors, aren't we? You know,
yeah,
so we're going to, the concrete tower is going to be what, 1.2 meters high?
Roughly, yeah.
Roughly.
Yeah, we want to keep it fairly open on the inside, obviously, because we've got to put the pipe works through the centre.
Yeah.
And it's going to be tricky. I think it's going to be one of those things, we'll build it as we go along.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just going to be like one giant jigsaw, because
it is, yeah.
I've got all these pieces from real kind of concrete crushers, tower pictures, and then Rob has designed them on
they look brilliant, don't they?
They do look absolutely superb, especially this bit. I mean, look at the texture on that. You'll see the proper thing popping up on your screen now, but I just want to make this look really, really good, because once it's lit up with, you know, a couple of dozen workers all in high vis, I don't think it's ever been done in O Gauge before, Tim, has it?
I don't think so. But it's going to be very industrial.
It's going to be very industrial, with its own Class 15, Hellion Class 15 shunter at the bottom, because it's going to have its own network of tracks and lots of PCA tank wagons and whatnot and everything like that. So it should look really, really good. But yeah, all these pipes just look, it's just amazing, isn't it, what you can do in resin 3D these days.
Oh, it's just another level of detail, isn't it?
It is. But you've cut these legs.
Yeah, all the piers, yeah. So,
yeah, the piers out of, these are laser cut.
Yeah, again, out of the 12mm we've used for the bases.
Yeah, and they're going to just sit like that and carry the HS3 along. And just for those of you that joined the channel recently, HS3 is only going to run about halfway along the before we get to the main marshalling yard bit, so it doesn't kind of impinge on the marshalling yard itself. But it's going to provide a real, well, it's just going to have a couple of HSTs coming in opposite directions at line speed. It's going to be mega, isn't it? Yeah. It really is. But so yeah, that's what we've been doing at Tim Horn Baseboards today, working out the concrete tower. I do come here, Tim, you know, after a 4-hour journey and think, what the hell are we doing? But it'll be worth it in the end, won't it?
Having fun.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And where's Arnold gone? He's
Arnie.
Arnold, the chief laser cutter, I think he's gone to his bed. That's the dog bite. Oh, here he comes, yeah.
Yeah, he's taken an interest in the pipe work.
Yeah, he has. He's run off with it a couple of times. Yeah, here he is again. So Arnold, the chief laser cutting technician dog. So there we go. That's where we're at. So, yeah, we're in Norfolk. We're going to be leaving Norfolk pretty shortly, going back to the basement and trying to work out how we're going to put this jigsaw of parts all together. So we'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you.
Right, let's just nip over to the beginnings of the cement factory now. Some of you, a lot of you will have seen this building before. And it's one of 5 that's going to comprise the cement factory in its entirety. And this is a huge building. Well, it's not just a building, it's at least 5 massive buildings next to each other. So you can see how big it is compared to that Hellion box there. That's one of the tallest buildings. Then we've got the garages next to it. Here, which is going to have all these cement mixers, two of which are parked there awaiting painting into blue circle cement livery. This is all lit up. It's got all the detail to add and everything else. Of course, that building there that we've just looked at is all fully lit from the inside. Loads of detail to add into onto all these buildings. But the cement factory will go cold. I'll get my words out. Will go down to about here. In fact, that's the spur there leading to the cement factory down there. And all the buildings will come up to about where I'm standing, where the camera is now. The biggest one, of course, is what I call the Crusher Tower. I don't know if that's the right name for it. But these are really intrinsic to cement factories. They always comprise part of the kind of complex of buildings. And the one popping up on your screen now, you'll see, is the one that I have been agonizing about trying to design all the parts that go inside it. So let's take a better look at what Rob's come up with. So we'll just nip over the other side and I'll just show you what I've been doing for the Crusher Tower. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that there's a lot of work goes on behind the scenes, you know, designing all the components of all the models within the model that I'm trying to build, because obviously in O Gauge there's not much you can buy which is, you know, is any relation to what I'm trying to build. So what I did was look again with the photos popping up on your screen now, that tower, and I've just been trying to take all the components, just photograph them individually, blow them up, give the measurements to Rob Bean down at Shepperton Studios, and then he has, so that's the, in fact that's, where are we? That's this one here, which is just done for me. We'll come on to the other bits in a minute. And of course, there was dozens of these. That is this one here. So I got 2 boxes of these just the other day, full of these kind of things, canisters. I don't know what the heck they do, but I know they're really vital to the actual. They've got to look good. Oh, this concrete crusher tower has got to look really good. So it needs all these components to be measured pretty accurately and assembled in a way that looks really realistic. And don't forget, the whole thing's going to be lit up. There's going to be steam. There's going to be lots of people in high-vis clothing, not real ones, of course. Ones about this size. And you can see how big these components of this cement factory are compared to a 7mm figure there. We've got the gantries that carry the big pipes, you know, right across the actual complex. What else is there? This is, I don't know what the heck this is either, but it seems to be in every single cement factory I see. But I'm just going to assemble them in the most prototypical way I can. They'll all be painted to look like concrete, they'll all be weathered, but once it's finished, that cement factory is going to be a model in its own right, because it's going to have its own network of sidings, and it's going to have the Class 15. It's going to be trundling along, and probably a couple of Class 03s as well, all painted in blue circle cement livery. But it's coming together, isn't it? That's the main thing. There's 2, I'm only showing you a selection here. There's actually, you saw some of them back at Tim Horn's, but there's actually 3 huge boxes of all these things. And me and Tim have been working out how the heck they all fit together. Little things like this. Again, this must be some sort of electric motor or something that winds something or other, but it's there, so it's got to be replicated. These walkways are everywhere you can see on these concrete cement factory complexes, so it should look really, really good. So there we go. Cement factory is coming along, and I'm going to be spending a lot of time on that just as soon as I've finished putting all the droppers in this track. And by goodness, there is a lot of droppers that need to go in there. But once you get a system, and I've got the radio on down here, and it's warming up a bit down here these days, It's actually quite therapeutic. I don't mind a bit of soldering, but I'm going to make sure I do a much better job of it than what I did first time round. We've mentioned before the power station building there, that's coming down in favour of one that's a bit more substantial, a little bit smaller for kind of force perspective. That is scale size, but it just looks too big. Although I say that, of course, that's only a third of the concrete cooling tower. That when they actually stood in their entirety, they're about 4 meters high. Once they're on the layout, of course, but they kind of look right. This one doesn't. So that's going to change, and the design's going to change as well. But anyway, there we have it. It's all coming on. So onwards and upwards. I'm getting excited now because I can kind of see things coming together slowly. There's just still a lot of work to do in getting the automation, which we're going to talk a lot more about the control systems in the next few weeks. So we're going to go over to the company that's going to be doing that in the future in a couple of weeks' time and chatting to the guy behind it all. But anyway, more of that later. And also, just as a parting shot, I've had another load of track delivered from Pico, which I should say that I've bought as well, because I think my favours have run out with Pico. They donated quite a lot in the beginning, which was really good of them. But there's so much track here. I need so many track pins and, flat bottom rail joiners. It's just never ending. But this is specifically for HS3. So, yeah, there we go. Hope you've enjoyed that update. I know there's not many how-tos in this video, but next week we should be cracking on with the diorama as usual. And, yeah, hopefully you'll pick up some hints and tips along the way. So we're back in Yorkshire, and I've just been experimenting with laying the bases for HS3 on top of the actual existing baseboard. So obviously it's going to be elevated a bit like this section here, and that is going to be about the height it's going to be at. And what's going to happen, the route, it's going to be sweeping in. And notice, actually, before I go any further, it leaves all that huge marshalling yard beyond the camera completely free, because what I was really keen on not doing was infringing kind of the view of the marshalling yard with HS3. So it's going to come in about halfway, not even halfway, probably a third of the way down. And it's going to come in on these nice bases that Tim has built. The girder bridges are going to span the tracks, and it's going to sweep round. I've just put these on the legs to show you exactly how high it's going to be. And just moving back for a second, don't forget it's going to look like this. Steve at Railway Laser Lines is making the fences and the sides, and then Tim is making the shoulders here. And then there's going to be two tracks, obviously here, which are going to fly round here, down the middle of the layout. I'm so glad I left a big gap in the tracks. They're then going to sweep to the left on a nice 30-foot radius curve, then sweep to the right, making a nice S-bend. I always think passenger trains, especially at high speed, look so good if they're traversing kind of really sweeping S-bends. And then the railway comes round, the HS3 comes round, it comes over these junctions here, but more importantly, what it doesn't do is it doesn't impinge on the big double junctions that we were building the other week. So the public obviously over there, and the HS3 line is in the it's in the background. It's not going to actually obstruct the view, that's the word I'm looking for, of all the nice track that I laid out, because originally, you might remember, it was going to come down, just lean over here, but that is going to just stop the nice view of trains climbing out into the distance. So it comes off the girder bridges. Here is where we're going to have a railway station, an elevated railway station with a staircase, and it's going to basically serve DMUs. I don't think I'm going to have the HST 125 trains stopping. I think they're going to be piling straight through at scale speed. But yeah, so that is the route of HS3. The line is then going to go off scene. It's going to go straight through the back scene. It's going to do a 180-degree turn, and then it's going to run down the back of the back scene and come out where we first started. And it's a bit of a shame in a way, because, you know, those HSTs, you're not going to see them running behind the back scene, but I think that's important to actually give a sense of, you know, I don't know, just a sense of realism. You don't want them coming past every 2 minutes. And in fact, the automation is going to make sure that that does not happen. So we're going to have probably 4 or 5 trains running on the high-speed line. A Deltic with at least 12 coaches on that's going to be flying through with its Napier the V12s, can't remember. Somebody will correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, the Napier Deltics are going to be flying through. Then we'll have a couple of DMUs, probably the Class 150s that Hellion are bringing out. And what else were we going to have? Oh yeah, we're going to have a steam special, probably pulled by Flying Scotsman, that's going to come through on the lines as well. So there's going to be 4 or 5 fiddle yard sidings behind the scenes. You won't see those, but you will see all of this, which is going to look, when it's finished, incredible. But the one thing I haven't touched upon, of course, is the catenary. So the catenary I have been looking at for some time. I've been down to the line side, looked at the different designs that you see on the East Coast Main Line and whatever, and I've come up with a design which seems really popular and which I can replicate in 3D resin printing. So let's just go and have a look at that. Before we do, let's have another video, but we'll come back to the catenary rather in a minute. So you see, this is how I spend my evenings. Thank God I am not married, because I'd be divorced by now. I say that a lot, I know, but I've basically been designing the catenary masts. They're going to be made out of 3D, but before I did, I just wanted to check the clearances. So what I did was just use an O Gauge coach here, and these posts that I'm going to use, the brass bit coming down there, which is a bit of rail that I've hot glued on, is actually for the second catenary wire. The first one will be straight across the roof of that coach. So they're just going to be single masts, but carrying 2 catenary wires. So that's kind of got the clearances and the basic measurements of the mast just about spot on. I then used the design of the one that's popping up on your on your screen again now, and kind of wrote down what I thought were the nearest measurements for Rob Bean to actually copy into 3D. So again, this is kind of life size, if you like. We've got all the lattice there. I've measured the posts. I've measured what I think it should be. The little pink dots are for the insulators, which look really nice in 3D resin printing. So these are going to be really, really detailed, which is great. But there's going to be, in fact, 50 of these. And there's also going to be 10 of these. Now these, of course, are the tensioners for the catenary posts, which I think they come, people, I'm sure some of you will know exactly how many, how often these appear on the actual real thing, but I reckon it's about every 15 posts. So there's going to be at least 3 or 4 of these, which are tensioners, and you're going to see all the wires going across the wheels. Rob's going to be printing these out in 3D again, and these should look really, really good. So again, as I've said there to Rob, the design is basically the same, the sizes are the same, it's just all the wheels and everything are an addition because it's a completely separate post, and they should look really, really good. So there we go for the catenary. They're going to slot in, of course, into these shoulders here, probably about every 18 inches or so. I was trying to work out what the distances between catenary masts are, but I reckon one every 18 inches or every 2 foot looks about right. So there we are. That is HS3 going double track, just to recap, elevated with a station, and I just cannot wait to see those HST 125s. And coming on to the HST 125s, in fact, there is going to be 2 full-length HST 125s. One is going to be in virgin livery. The other one, I have been racking my brains. So I've got a challenge for you here. What do you think the second HST 125 should be in? What livery? Because I'm thinking GNER, given it's kind of north of England. I've looked at Midland Main Line. That's a really nice livery. I'd even looked at the Network Rail yellow train, but that's just too different with different coach designs and buffers at the front, which I don't really want because I like the original with the Paxman Valenta engine. So yeah, I think it's going to be GNER, but I'd be interested to think or to see what any of you guys and girls think about this second HST and what livery that'll be in. So if you want to contribute and just put it in the comments, I'd be really grateful to see it. So there we go, HS3 double track, lots of HST 125s, and this should look really spectacular and give a lot more movement to the model, because don't forget, this is primarily rather a freight layout. There's going to be lots of slow-moving trains, slow-moving freight trains, and this is going to change all that. So yeah, onwards and upwards. So that's it again for this week. Again, I just want to say big thanks to all of you that make regular contributions to the comments, and it really makes a big difference. You know who you are, so thanks ever so much. Really appreciate it. But for those of you that can who haven't subscribed yet, really appreciate that as well if you can subscribe. I think we've got just over 8,000 subscribers now, which is fantastic news. So thanks again for that and for all your words of support. So yeah, have a good weekend, and I will see you next week.